Dear students, today we are going to discuss about the Atlando-occipital joint and Atlando-axial joint. First one, Atlando-occipital joint between the atlas and the occipital bone. Okay. See this joint. See, this is our atlas vertebra. This is the first cervical vertebra, known as the atlas, and this one is the occipital bone of the skull. Okay. So between these two, there is a joint. That joint is known as Atlando-occipital joint. Then the next joint, which is in between the atlas and the second cervical vertebra, is known as the axis. That joint, here we can see a joint. The opposite side, here also one joint is there. That is what Atlando-axial joint. So first topic is Atlando-occipital joint. See, it's a ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. I already told you what is that ellipsoid variety. Okay, so it's ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. Articular surfaces. Superiorly, the occipital condyles. See here, the occipital bone is having here two condyles, right and left condyles. This is the inferior view of the skull. So superiorly, this condyles of this is the occipital bone. See, this one is a occipital bone. So occipital bone is having two condyles. The superior articular surface is formed by occipital condyles. Okay, this is anatomical position. So here, approximately here in this region, there we are having the occipital condyles. Then inferiorly below, superior articular facet of the atlas vertebra. See, this is our atlas vertebra. Okay, and this one. Okay, these two are the two superior articular surface of atlas. Okay, here, this is the superior articular surface of the atlas. See, this superior articular surface of the atlas joins with the occipital condyle to form Atlando-occipital joint. So, articular surface are here. First type, it is ellipsoid variety of synovial joint. Then articular surfaces, superiorly occipital condyles, inferiorly superior articular facet of the atlas vertebra. Now, what are the supporting factors like capsule and ligaments? First one, fibrous capsule. This joint is surrounded by a covering, that is what the fibrous capsule. Nothing more about the capsule. Two joints. See, right and left Atlando-occipital joints. See, this is a left side and this one is a right side. Both joints are covered with the separate capsules. Then anterior Atlando-occipital membrane. Okay, it's a membrane extending from the atlas to the occipital bone. Okay, that's why it's known as Atlando-occipital membrane. Which part of that joint? See, anterior part of the joint. Now we'll see the details. It extends from anterior margin of the foramen magnum to the upper border of the anterior arch of the atlas. See, this is an anterior view. See, foramen magnum means the largest opening. See, this is a foramen magnum. This opening, this is a foramen magnum. This is the anterior margin of the foramen magnum, and this is the posterior margin of the foramen magnum. Clear? This opening, it is known as the foramen magnum, through which the medulla continues with the spinal cord. Okay. See, this is the anterior margin of the foramen magnum. This one is a posterior margin of the foramen magnum. Okay. So this anterior margin, from the anterior margin to this anterior arch of the atlas, that is what the anterior Atlando-occipital membrane. Now we'll see that. See, this is approximately here comes the anterior margin of the foramen magnum. So this membrane, this is the anterior arch of the atlas. Okay, so this sheet extending from this occipital bone to this arch, anterior arch of the atlas. This membrane, it is known as the anterior Atlando-occipital membrane. Like that, behind there we can see another membrane. See this membrane. This is a posterior arch of the atlas vertebra. So from the posterior margin of the occipital, from the posterior margin of the foramen magnum to this posterior arch of the atlas. Now this membrane, this is a posterior Atlando-occipital membrane. Now posterior Atlando-occipital membrane extending from posterior margin of the foramen magnum to the posterior arch of the atlas. Okay, so fibrous capsule, then anterior atlanto-occipital membrane, posterior atlanto-occipital membrane. Those are the supporting factors. Now arterial supply is supplied by vertebral artery and by the first now supplied by the first cervical nerve. So what is that vertebral artery? Say here we can see one artery. This one is a vertebral artery. Vertebral artery towards the lower part of the pons, these two arteries join together to form the basilar artery. Okay, so this is a basilar artery here. Anyway, this one is or these two are the two vertebral arteries. So this vertebral artery supplies to this joint, atlanto-occipital joint. And see here we can see the first cervical nerve. This is the first cervical nerve of right and left side. That nerve supplies to this joint. Now movements. It permits flexion and extension. What is meant by flexion? See this bend. This bending, it is the flexion, and this is what the extension. And it also permits a slight lateral flexion like this. This is a lateral flexion towards the right side, then lateral flexion towards the left side. Okay, so mainly these two movements, flexion and extension. So this joint permits flexion and extension. Flexion is by these muscles, longus capitis and rectus capitis anterior, then extension. Rectus capitis posterior, rectus capitis posterior major and rectus capitis posterior minor. Okay, then obliquus capitis superior, semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, and upper part of the trapezius muscle. Okay, no other way you have to by heart these names. Then lateral bending. Lateral bending is by rectus capitis, then semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, sternocleidomastoid, and trapezius muscle. So these are the muscles helping these movements. Okay, so that's all about the atlanto-occipital joint. See, first type, then articular surfaces, then ligaments, then arterial supply, nerve supply, then movements and muscles helping movements. Now next joint, atlanto-axial joint between the first and second cervical vertebra. Between the atlas and axis. That's why this joint is known as atlanto-axial joint. Type and articular surface. See there we can see basically three joints. Okay, what are they? A pair of lateral atlanto-axial joint and one median atlanto-axial joint. A pair of lateral atlanto-axial joint means here we are having two joints, right and left lateral atlanto-axial joints. Then one is in the midline, median atlanto-axial joint. We'll see. See here in the midline, where we can see a joint. See, this is what the second cervical vertebra axis, and this one is the first cervical vertebra atlas. So here in the midline, see this dense or the odontoid process joins with the anterior arch. That's a joint. Okay, that is the median atlanto-axial joint. Okay, see between the dense and the anterior arch. Okay, see this joint, this is it is in the midline. So median atlanto-axial joint between the dense and the anterior arch. Now if you are moving to the sides, see here we can see a joint. Okay, between the atlas and the axis. Like that, here also one joint is there between the atlas and axis. So these two are the two lateral atlanto-axial joints. Now we'll say. So two lateral atlanto-axial joints between the inferior facet of the atlas and the superior facet of the axis. Okay, so this lateral atlanto-axial joint is a plain variety of synovial joint. The median atlanto-axial joint is a pivot variety of synovial joint. Pivot variety. See here, this is the central axis of that pivot, and this is what the osteoligamentous ring. So this osteoligamentous ring rotates around this central axis. That is what the peculiarity of this pivot joint. Okay, so the median atlanto-axial joint. See, this median atlanto-axial joint is a pivot variety. These two lateral atlanto-axial joints are plain variety. Now ligaments and the supporting factors. First, lateral atlanto-axial joints are supported by these ligaments. First, capsule. These two joints are covered with two separate capsules. See here we are having a capsule. Here also we are having another capsule. So these joints are covered with the separated capsules. Then it is supported by lateral part of anterior longitudinal ligament and ligamentum flavum. Okay. See, this is what the anterior longitudinal ligament. This is anterior view of the vertebrae. This is anterior surface of the body of the vertebrae. So here we are having the anterior longitudinal ligament. That anterior longitudinal ligament supports this joint. Okay, like that posterior aspect there, it is having another ligament, that is what? The ligamentum flavum. See, these pedicles are connected by one ligament, that one is a ligamentum flavum. Okay, so these two ligaments, anterior longitudinal ligament, ligamentum flavum. In addition to that, we are having the capsule to support the lateral atlantoaxial joint. Now the median atlantoaxial joint, here also capsule is there. Okay, in addition to the capsule, one ligament is there known as the transverse ligament. Posteriorly, here it is having a transverse ligament. It extends from medial surface of the lateral mass of one side to the opposite side. See, this is the lateral mass of one side, this is a lateral mass of the opposite side. So medial surface of this lateral mass to medial surface of this lateral mass. So this ligament, this is a transverse ligament. Okay, so that also supports this is joint, or with this transverse ligament, this osteoligamentous ring will be formed. Now, arterial supply and nerve supply. Ventral primary rams of the second cervical spinal nerve. Okay, it is supplied by second cervical spinal nerve, and arterial nerve supply, then arterial supply by deep cervical, occipital, and the vertebral arteries. Now movements. Here, this joint permits only rotatory movements. Okay, rotatory movement takes place. Rotatory movement means that this is a central axis. I already told you. Around the central axis, this rotatory movement. Okay, this rotatory movement is by obliquus capitis inferior, then rectus capitis posterior major, then splenius of the one side, acting with the sternocleidomastoid of the opposite side. Okay, these are some of the important muscles producing that rotatory movement. So these are the details of these two joints. The remaining details you have to read from your textbook. Okay, thank you.